welcome to another episode of Cinnamon Stitches. I'm your yarn host, Jennifer. I want to do a tutorial with you guys today, okay? This is very, very simple granny square. The reason I wanted to show you how to do this granny square is I was watching my friend Carrie Penny over at the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and she was showing these granny squares that she was making, and honestly, I don't know why she's making granny squares. I don't know what her plans were, but I saw the tutorial, or not the tutorial. I saw her showing the granny squares that she was making, and it was circle out to square, and I fell in love with them, and instantly I knew exactly what yarn I wanted to use, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with this idea. So I immediately turned off Carrie Penny's video because I went on the quest to find a tutorial for exactly what I was looking for, and I tried a couple tutorials out and they didn't really work for me. So I was like, you know what, we're just gonna make our own. And I learned the very center part of this from Jada and Stitch's Circular Granny. I will link her below because I absolutely believe in giving credit to the designers that have shown me how to do this. And then I took the basis of her circular, which is this first orange part. This is Jada and Stitches. And then I turned it into a square from there. So I am making an Afghan with this. And if you want to learn how to do this square with me, we can make an Afghan together. I am calling it the Harvest Moon Afghan. And the reason I'm calling it the Harvest Moon Afghan is because I'm using harvest colors. This is orange, this is a burnt orange, and this is like a burgundy. I don't know how well the colors are turning out in this video, but I will take a photograph of this with better control of the colors and the lighting. But for now, we're just doing the tutorial. I'm going to make several of these. I am going to turn it into an Afghan, like I said, and if you guys want to join me and make an Afghan, it doesn't have to be harvest colors. It could be Christmas colors. It could be spring colors, it could be baby colors, and I'm not going to give you guidelines on how big to make this. I'm going to let you guys figure out how big you want to make your Afghan. I will, however, measure this square because I have no idea how big it is. It's looking kind of like 12 by 12 to me. Let me grab a tape measure. Welcome to Cinnamon Stitches, where we are never fully prepared for a video. Okay, so there's a little bit of a, where it comes out a little bit, where it bows, but that, once you connect these pieces together to make the Afghan, that's going to go away. It's not a big deal at all. Well, it's 11. It's probably 11 by 11. Yeah, they're 11 by 11, but of course, if you use a different hook, this will change. If you use different yarn, this size will change. You can make this in any yarn and with any hook that you so choose. I have no idea what size hook I'm using today. Cue the Christmas clock. So, depending on your hook and your yarn, this could be bigger, these could be smaller. But 11 by 11 is pretty good. I was thinking like 3 or 4 across and 3 or 4 up and down. I just want a small blanket for the back of my couch or my recliner. I'm not going for a big giant Afghan, but like I said, you can make this any size you want. Let's get started on the tutorial. The yarn that I am using is yarn that was gifted to me. And these 3 colorways came together in a kit. We have the Merry Maximum Value 8-ounce balls. You don't have to use this yarn. You could use whatever yarn you want, but I've had this yarn in stash for quite a while, and I knew that this was the yarn that I wanted to use. So this is just a worsted weight number 4 basic acrylic. I have it in orange. What is the official? Pumpkin. The burnt orange color is copper. Name's right there. And the maroon color is called dark pink. That is not pink at all, but whatever. These colors go very beautiful together. And so we are going to make it Harvest. Harvest Moon. All right, guys, let's get started. I'm going to make each one of these squares the same because I want it to all start out with a lighter color and radiate towards the darker color, because that's just the vision I had in my head. Of course, like I said, use whatever colors and whatever yarn you want. It does not have to be solid colors. You can use variegated. This does not matter. Make it your blanket. Make it how you envision it. You can mix variegated with solids. You could do a self-striping yarn, whatever your little heart desires. You don't have to go buy new yarn for this. You can use what's in stash. I have no idea how much is this going to take to finish the blanket, but I'm guaranteed I'm going to have extras left over. To get started, now there's two ways that you can do this blanket. You can do magic loop, which is what I'm going to show you. And magic loop is way less scary than what a lot of people feel that it is. Yes, it feels weird when you do it, and it feels unnatural. But I'm going to show you a really easy way to do magic loop if you do not like doing magic loop and you just cannot get the hang of magic loop. That is okay too. Just chain 6 and connect it together so that it makes a loop. So to make magic loop, I am going to make what looks like an awareness ribbon. Okay, you want the short tail on the bottom down here and like an awareness ribbon, so it should go like that. Okay, I'm going to stick my needle from the top down to the bottom and grab the long tail that's attached to the ball and pull up a loop. And to finish this, you chain 1, and that secures the magic loop. But we actually need a chain 3 on top of this, so I'm still going to do the chain 3, 2, 3. Some people only do chain 3 and don't do that first chain 3, and that is okay too. The reason I do the chain 4 all together here is that first one is a lock-in to lock the magic loop closed, and the other 3 count as the double crochet. And the reason I do it that way is because if I don't, and when I haven't done the chain 4 at the beginning, it always feels like there's a chain missing at the very first double crochet. Okay, and then we are going to put 3 double crochets in, so that counts as, nope, that is wrong. 2 double crochet, not 3, 2 double crochet, not 3. That's going to be our first little segment. And I am using Jada's tutorial for this. I'm not pretending that I'm not using Jada's tutorial. This is how I learned to do the center circle. Because up until this point, I did not know how to do a granny circle. Alright, so chain 1. And then we're going to put 2 more double crochet. 2 more double crochet. We're going to chain 1. We're going to do this a total of 6 times. So you want 6 of those little segments. So 2 double crochet, chain 1. So we have 1, 2, 3 segments. I'm going to put 6 total. So 2 double crochet, chain 1. 2 double crochet, chain 1. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more segment. 2 double crochet, chain 1. That little tail right there. And when you're doing these, you want to always be around both threads, the short tail and the circle that you created. Okay, this short tail, if you pull it tight, closes your circle. Okay, but now you have to lock this stitch in, so you got to pull the short tail up here, and we're going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain here, which was technically the 4th chain, but that 3rd chain is down there locking it in. So the very top of this double crochet, and you're going to slip stitch around the tail, and that will lock it in. Okay, then this is where I differ from Jada, because I'm going to turn my work, and you're going to pull that apart, and you're going to go into the first chain 1 space right here, and you're going to slip stitch so that you're in the chain 1 space. And then you are going to chain 1, 2, and 3 over the top of this tail so that we don't have to weave this in later. We're just going to crochet over the top of it. All right, this next row, we are going to do in each one of these chain 1 spaces, we're going to put 2 double crochet. So that first chain 3 counts as a double crochet. We're going to do 2 double crochet. We're going to chain 1 and do 2 double crochet in that same stitch. This is our increase. Because if you're going to make a circle, you have to increase every row. Chain 1. So in each one of these chain 1 spaces of the previous row, we're going to do 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1. Okay, so 2 double crochet, chain 1, and I'm still working over the top of this tail. So those are going to be inside my stitches. 2 double crochet, chain 1, and 2 more double crochet in that same stitch. Make sure you put your chain 1 before you go on to the next. So 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1. Go to the next spacer and do 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1. See, my tail is still kind of existing there. Go to the next space, and once again we're going to do 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1. I'm going to say this. I looked for several different tutorials on how to master the granny circle. I watched several videos. I tried out several of the tutorials. I'm still doing 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet in that same stitch. And Jada's video did not pop up right away. But I should have known better and just searched Jada's page, because Jada's is the only one that actually looked like an actual circle that wasn't all wonky. So I was like, I kind of reprimanded myself, and I was like, why didn't you just check Jada to begin with and save yourself some time? Lilo N Stitches pretty much has taught me everything that I know about crochet. Well, she taught me most everything. 1, 2, 3. So we connected. I should probably stop talking and show you what I did. Okay. So we had that last chain 1. So we had 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1. We are going to slip stitch it to that very first chain 3 of the row. Slip stitch it. Turn our work back and go back into this hole and slip stitch so that now you're working out of the hole. We're going to chain 3 again, and this is row 1, row 2. Now we're on row 3. So now we're going to change up, and we're going to put a granny shell. So a granny shell is just 3 double crochet, chain 1. So 3 double crochet. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip those next 2 double crochet and go into that chain 1 space, and we're going to put another granny. So 3 double crochet, chain 1, the next space, skip 2 double crochet in that next space, put another granny shell. We're going to do this all the way around, and a granny shell is 3 double crochet, and then chain 1. Go to the next chain space, put another granny shell, 3 double crochet, chain 1. We're going to do that all the way around. So we're going to skip 2 double crochet, go into the chain space, skip 2, go to the next chain space, skip 2, go into the next chain space. We're just going to put grannies all the way around. And at the end of this row, you should have 12 grannies separated by a chain 1 space. Easy peasy. Just keep on doing granny shells, that chain 1 in between, all the way around. Kind of quiet in here today. I don't hear my wind chime. The dogs are being quiet. Mr. Cinnamon is home. He's even being quiet. So now we made our last granny shell. We only have 2 double crochets left to skip. So we chained our 1 and we are going to slip stitch to connect to that very first chain 3. I'm going to flip our work over again. We're going to slip stitch into that hole to join, and we're going to chain 3. Now this row, we're going to change it up a little bit. Instead of a granny shell, we're going to do 4 double crochet, chain 1 all the way around this row. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that chain 3 counts as the very first double crochet, and then we put 3 more double crochets in. So we have 4 double crochets in this chain space. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to go to the next row. And we're going to do it all over again. We're going to put 4, double crochets, 4 double crochets, chain 1. You're just going to do that all the way around. And you still, at the end of this row, will have 12 shells. Three and 4, chain 1, do 4 more double crochets, chain 1, chain 1. See, this is what it should look like so far. I'm going to keep on doing the 4 double crochets. Chain 1. If there's ever a part where you get confused or you forget what you're supposed to do, just rewind. Watch it again. I know I'm going a little bit fast, but I figure most of you that are here watching my tutorials, you've been here before. You know how this tutorial stuff works. And you guys know how to do the basics. But if you're not, and if you're new and you're a beginner, it doesn't hurt to rewind as many times as you need to. Three and 4, chain 1. And this is our last 4 double crochet shell for the end of the row. 3 and 4. Don't forget your chain 1, slip stitch to connect at the top of that chain 3 of the beginning of the row. And I'm going to switch colors here. I am going to move on to the burnt orange color. So I'm just going to cut off, disconnect from the ball, pull the yarn through, pull it tight. Now we're disconnected. Now moving on to copper. Although to me this looks like burnt orange, but whatever you call it. Now, I don't know what the heck is going on with this ball. We have 2 ends coming out of the center, 1 coming out of the other center. So somewhere in the middle of that ball there was a mess up. We're going to ignore it, and we're going to go to the one side of the ball that only has 1 string coming out of its butt. So, alright, now, to attach my next color, and you do not have to attach colors, you don't have to switch colors, you can do this all in one color. You can do this in an ombre yarn, you can do this in any yarn that you so choose, but I'm changing the color now. Because that's what we're doing. Well, that's what I'm doing. Alright, so See the string here where we cut off? We're going to flip that back around. I like to have all of my strings in the same place, so I don't have a bunch of strings just hanging around that I got to weave in later, because we are going to have to weave these in later. And I'm going to attach my yarn with a slip stitch. So I just made a slip knot and then I attached it with a slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 1, 2, and 3. And that is the beginning of our row. What are we on, row 5? Means I gotta turn my book over because I made notes. I made lots of notes. All right, row 5. We are going to do, we're going to go back to the granny. So we're going to go back to 3 double crochet. So because that first chain 3 counts as a double crochet, we just need 2 more right now. And then we are going to chain 2 and put another granny shell in this same chain space. So 3 double crochet. So in every chain space all the way around, you're going to do a shell, which is 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and in between those is only going to be a chain 1. Okay, so 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 1. So 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1. Go to the next chain space and see we got these tails are going to have to be weaved back and forth right there. We're just going to pretend they don't exist. We're going to tuck them to the back so we don't have to look at them. Next chain space, we're going to do the same thing. 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 1, go to the next chain space, 3 double crochets. I spoke too soon. Mr. Cinnamon is being noisy. All right, chain 2, 3 double crochet in that same chain spot. Chain 1. See, so every chain space will have these little peaks. Next space, chain space, you guessed it, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 1, and continue on all the way around the row with 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 1. Three double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 1, next spot, like I said, I've had this yarn for, I want to say 2 years. It was gifted to me by one of you lovelies. And I just didn't know what I wanted to make with it. I know that she sent it to me with the idea she wanted me to make pumpkins. Which I will have some left over to make pumpkins, I promise you. But I also wanted to make something big with it. Because pumpkins don't take a whole lot of yarn. And I would have this yarn forever if I only made pumpkins from it. So I wanted an autumn blanket for the back of the couch, you know, just to cuddle up in. And of course I will, because especially the burgundy or the maroon or whatever you're gonna call that color, I think that would just be absolutely gorgeous as a pumpkin. I at one time had a yarn that was like these two colors being held together. And it was just a marled yarn, and I got it from AC Moore, and I made a pumpkin out of that, and it was absolutely beautiful. It is one of my favorites still to this day. So I may be doing that with these two yarns, just holding two together and making a pumpkin. Because I cannot get enough of making pumpkins. And if you're curious, I have both a knit and a crochet tutorial for pumpkins on my website. Just search Cinnamon Stitches pumpkin and they will both pop up for you. Or you can always click the playlist, because I have playlists set up and I try to put all my tutorials in one playlist. All right, so we got all the way back to the beginning, and we put the granny shell, chain 2, granny shell, chain 1 all the way around. We're back to the beginning. We chained 1. We're going to slip stitch into the first chain 3 space. Oop, made that a little bit too tight. Slip stitch into the next double crochet and slip stitch into that chain 2 space. And these are the spaces we're going to be working on for the next row. So we're going to skip the chain 1 space, and we're only going to work at the top of each one of these peaks. And in each one of these peaks, we are going to do exactly the same that we already did in this row. However, we're going to put our 3 chain 3, or not chain 3s, our 3 double crochets. We're going to do chain 2, 3 double crochets, except now in between here, instead of a chain 1 like we were doing in the last row, this row we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to skip on over to that peak, and we're going to do it again. We're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets in that same stitch. Whoop, slid out. I slid out. Hook down, hook down. All right, and then you guessed it, chain 2. So this pattern for this row all the way around will be 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets in the same stitch, chain 2. So 3, 2, 3, 2 all the way around. Remember, we're skipping this. We're going into the peaks only. Three double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2. Skip on over to that next peak. Now at this point of your granny circle, it may look kind of wonky. It may start to like just not look like it like, look, it's all wobbly. It's all wobbly. Just press it out. There we go. See? And just keep on keeping on. Chain 2, go back to the next peak. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2. You guys are doing a good job keeping up. You got this. I hope you're enjoying this. I swore some time ago, because I hate sewing motifs together. And always, if I make the motif big enough, it feels like it's not such a big project sewing these together. And so I have upstairs on my bedside, I have granny squares that I'm working on, and they're like, I think they're like 5 rows, so they're like maybe 5 by 5s, and I'm using little tiny little tiny skeins, little bonbons from Premier Yarns from some time ago. Not the newer, bigger ones that they came out with, but the smaller ones they had like a couple years ago. And the reason I'm making those is because I don't really have a plan for those. Those are like when I have nervous energy and I need to do something, but I can't concentrate on a big project. So those stay on my bedside with no real plan what to do with the granny squares. But when I make something with granny squares, or motifs of any kind, I like to make them bigger so that it's less work to sew them together, because let's face it, that is the absolute worst. And let's be quite honest, there are lots of ways you could sew motifs together. I am probably just going to single crochet these together. I don't mind the ridge. And I did that with Mr. Cinnamon's Americana blanket that I made him. Did I put enough? I did not. I didn't chain enough stitches there. I did that with Mr. Cinnamon's blanket. I just did, when I sewed them together, I just did a single crochet all the way around. And I don't mind the ridge. But if you don't like that, I understand. You can sew them together. There's lots of ways to connect granny squares. You can connect them any way you want, but I am probably just going to show you the way that I am going to do it. And that will be just single crocheting. Because this is for me. This is not for, I'm not trying to win no ribbons at the fair. I'm not trying to gift this to anyone. This is just for me. I'm not making it as a present for anyone. Yeah, when I saw Carrie Penny, her circle to square grannies, I was like, I need that blanket in my life. Like, I just need it. I instantly knew what I wanted to do with this yarn, because this yarn has been sitting on hold until I found the right project for it. And I was trying to design in my head. Like, I was thinking all kinds of ways to do these autumn colors together so that it was a beautiful Afghan. And then when I saw her squares, I instantly knew exactly what I was going to do. I was like, granny square blanket, that's what it needs to be. That's what it needs to be. I keep forgetting to chain two in between because I keep talking. Silly old Jen. When I get to the end of this row, I'm going to cut the color again, because we're going to move on to the burgundy after this. Whoops. Of course, if you don't want to switch colors, it's your blanket. You do you. So we got to the end, chain 2. We're going to slip stitch into that chain 3 from the first of the row. We're going to once again get our handy dandy scissors. We are going to tie that off. I'm going to get rid of the copper. So to recap, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of the orange, 2 rows of the copper or burnt orange, and then we're going to do, going to bring in our maroon color. Once again, we are going to create a slip knot. Although you can attach this yarn any way you feel comfortable attaching it. If you don't attach it the same way I do, it's cool. It's cool. All right. I'm flipping the work over again because I'm going to now work backwards, because I really just want to crochet over this yarn right here. So I am going to slip stitch over the top of this tail. Then I'm going to take both my tails and I'm going to hold them together over the top here, and I'm going to chain, you guessed it, 3. I'm going to do 2 more double crochets, and this is where it is going to get a little bit tricky. Okay, you're gonna have to count and you're gonna have to pay attention. What we're going to do is we are going to now create, we're going to turn this in from a beautiful star shape and we're going to turn it into a square. So in the very first one where you connect, we're going to do 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 2 because this is going to be our corner now. And we're going to put 3 more double crochets. Okay, so that is now going to be our corner. We're going to chain 1, and we are no longer skipping these chain spaces. We're going to be working in them. So we are going to work a regular granny shell at the top of the peak and at the chain space between the shells. Okay, so we got our corner, which is 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. We chained 1. We're going to go to the next chain space and put a granny shell, which is 3 double crochets, 2 and 3. We are going to chain 1. We're going to go to the chain space between the shells. We're going to put a granny shell, which is 3 double crochets. Chain 1. We'll go to the next chain space. Put a granny shell, 3 double crochets, chain 1. The way we're going to work this is we're going to have our corner, then we're going to have 5 granny shells in between the corners. We're going to go to the next chain space, and once again, we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 1. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 granny shells. We need 1 more granny shell. So this one will be 5. 2, 3. We're going to chain 1. We're going to go to that next chain space, and we're going to put a corner. 1, 2, 3, chain 2. 3 more double crochets. So remember, the corners are 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Then we're going to chain 1. And what we're doing is we're creating a straightish line from corner to corner, okay? And it's going to look funky right here. It's going to wave. It's fine. What you're doing is correct. Don't worry if it waves. It will eventually straighten itself out more. I'm going to go, now we created this corner here, we're going to go to the next chain space, put a granny shell, 2, 3 double crochets, chain 1. We're going to do that again 5 times. So we need 5 granny shells and then a corner. 3, chain 1, 3 double crochets, chain 1. So we have 1, 2, 3. We need 2 more. 1, 2, 3. Chain 1. 2, 3 double crochets, chain 1. So check it again. Corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 granny shells, and now it's time to put another corner in. We go to the next chain space and do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3, 3 double crochets. And I know that I don't have to tell you this. Chain 1. We're going to make 5 more chain spaces, or granny shells. If you guys are making this Afghan along with me, or if you're just making a singular granny square, because you're trying to learn something new, I want to see what you made. I love when you guys share what you have made from my tutorials. I absolutely love that. And you know where to find me. I'm linked below in the description box. One, 2. Goodness, I keep slipping out of my stitches. Getting overzealous. Getting excited because we're almost to the last round. 1, 2, 3, 4, one more. And then it's time for a corner. So we got our 5 granny shells. Now we're going to make our corner. Which is 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Now 5 more granny shells. And then we are almost back to the beginning of the row. So I'm going to put in my last granny shell. My yarn keeps getting tangled around my book. I keep having to untangle it. Chain 1, and we're going to connect to the first 3, chain 3 space, or 3, the first chain 3 of the row. We're going to slip stitch again. And we are going to turn our work over again. I like working when I do granny shells or granny whatevers. I like working one side and then the right side, then the wrong side, then the right side. It tends to keep the corners more square. If you just keep going in the round, a lot of times it will become like off center slightly, so it'll look more like a rhombus than a square. That's why we keep flipping back and forth. And plus, I would rather chain back into this closest space than to chain across to get into that further away corner. So we're going to chain 3. We're going to make another granny shell. Chain 1. We're going to do exactly like we did the last row, except we don't have to count this row. When you hit a corner, you're going to put another corner in. When you're in between all the rest of the granny spaces, you're going to put a granny shell. So it's exactly the same as the last row. 3 double crochets, chain 1, go to the next chain space and do another granny shell. 3 double crochet, whoops, chain 1. You got this. It's easy peasy. Now this row, once you've gotten to this row where you're just doing the granny shells and the corners, you can repeat this row as many times as you want. You can make one giant granny square and call that a blanket and call it a day. You still have your circle in the middle. It's still a harvest moon. You can change up the colors as many times as you want going around. It's not a big deal. Or you can follow along with me and make a bunch of granny squares, and then we're gonna sew them together. But if you don't want to sew them together, you can just keep doing this granny square. Just keep going. Just keep going. So I got to the corner, and now I'm going to put a corner in. So we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 1. So this is the row that we've just completed. This is our corner. Now we're going to be going down this side. Okay. Like I said, it's still going to look a little bit wonky. And the more rows you do of this repeat, this row that I'm showing you now, the more rows you do of that, that will eventually just be completely straight and flat, and you're not going to notice the ripple anymore. So just don't worry. Just do it however big you want. This part from this point on, This blanket is yours, and it's up to you to change up whatever you want and do whatever you want. Just putting granny shells in a square. Going round and round and round. 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet in the next space. And when you hit the corner, put a corner in. Chain 1. Corner time. Is anything like hammer time? Oh, 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 oh. Corner time. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet in that corner. That creates our corner. Just don't hang out on the corner too long. Somebody will call the cops on you. And on we go. Granny shells. We're making grannies. Oh, oh, oh. Granny square. For me personally, for this blanket, because I've already did several, I've done several. I've done several. This is my last row of granny, but I encourage you, make this your own. You want to make it a 12-inch, make it a 12-inch. You put another row in. You want to make it bigger, keep going. You want to just make one giant granny square? That is your prerogative. This is your blanket. That's your yarn and your hook. Corner time. Oh, we hit the corner. All right. 3 double crochet. Chain 2. 1, 2, 3 double crochet. After I finish this tutorial, filming this tutorial, I should say, I gotta go pick up little man from school. And then we gotta drive out and go pick up Pumpkin Spice from college. She's homesick already, wants to come home and visit us. Which is fine. She also wants to go visit her friend, which I think is the real issue. She wants to go see her friend, but like, whatever. I'm just looking forward to driving through the mountains. It's a cool, today feels like a fall day very much. Like, and by cool, some of you are going to laugh at what my definition of cool is. It's like the low 80s. So it's like 83 degrees Fahrenheit. And there's a very, very light, very almost non-existent breeze. But it's humid. And the leaves are starting to change. And I can imagine driving through the mountains, there's going to be even a little bit more color than what I'm seeing right now. Because right now, my dogwood, I have a pink dogwood in front of the house. It is just now starting to get red leaves on it. And then the leaves on my dogwood turn pretty much this color. A little more red than purple, but oh, it's so beautiful. We hit a corner, so we're going to make a corner. So yeah, don't know what we're doing about dinner tonight. Probably buy little man McDonald's. That's all he ever wants when we're out. But me and Juju can't eat barely anywhere because of the gluten. All right, so we're going to slip stitch to that first chain 3 space just like we did all the other rows. Okay, I'm going to show you what my square looks like because I want you to understand your square is not going to be perfect at this point, and it's okay. If you pull the corners out a little bit, it's fine, but there's still a little bit of a bow here, which corrects itself a little bit when I put the solid border on. See how it's a lot straighter? And then when you sew these together, you're not even going to barely notice that at all. And when you wash it, it will stretch itself out. It's all going to be okay from this point. This is what we have here. Like I said, you can continue on with this granny as many rows as you want. I am going to switch and I'm going to do a solid double crochet border from this point on. but you can do what you want. And here's another alternative. If you want to even make this, like if you want to make this a continuous granny and just keep making this bigger and bigger and bigger as one blanket, I'm going to show you how to do the double crochet row, and then you can go beyond that and put a solid double crochet row in, and the next row you can put another granny row in, or you could put a fillet row in, so double crochet, chain one, skip one all the way around. Just treat the corners like I'm going to show you, and you can do like a solid row and then go right back to grannies, and it will give you a really cool effect on your blanket. So for right now, I'm just going to show you because I'm doing the border for mine. All right, so to get started on the solid double crochet row, we're going to chain 3 from where we connected. So if you take these and you look at these granny shells, let me pull you in closer so you can see, so I can make sure that we're all on the same page. We are going to put a double crochet in every single stitch around. So double crochet, double crochet, double crochet, and in the chain 1 space, 1 double crochet. We're going to do that all the way around till we reach the corner. So make sure you have 3 double crochets in every granny shell. So see how I have 3. Then we're going to go to that hole and we're going to put a double crochet. So now that's 4. Now we're going to go to the next shell, and there should be 3 double crochets and then the 4th one in the chain. 1, 2, 3. And make sure you get that 4th one in that chain. Okay, and I'm going to pull you back up because I done showed you what we need to do. You don't need to be so close. We're just going to do that all the way around until we get to the corner. Put those 3 double crochets in. Get that chain space to get that 4th double crochet in, all the way around. I hope you guys are enjoying this tutorial. What's funny is I swore a couple weeks ago I was not going to be making any more tutorials. They're so time consuming. And then I have made several tutorials. Because I was like, you know what? We don't have to make all the tutorials big giant tutorials. We can just, when I'm crocheting, I can just get on here and talk to you guys and show you what I'm doing. So you guys have a better understanding of what I'm making and what I'm doing. And then we get to spend a little time together talking. Which, by the way, totally enjoy this time we're having together. I really like sitting with you guys and crocheting together. That's why I don't, when I crochet these tutorials, okay, we got to the corner. We're going to make sure we get all 3 of those and put a double crochet in those, okay? And I will finish my thought on tutorials in a second. And in this chain 2 space of the corner, we're going to put 5 double crochets. That's going to give us our corner. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, remember, when we're going back down this side, there's 3 double crochets here. So you might have to pull these stitches back a little bit so you can see that very first double crochet, because it's going to be hard for you to see because these stitches are going to want to pull around. So make sure you get that very first double crochet and the 2 following it. Or otherwise it's your stitch count's going to be off and you're going to have like a weird looking corner. And then don't forget that chain 1 space. That's why I do my tutorials the way that I do them, where I sit and talk with you, and I don't break it up and say I'll meet you at the end of the row a bunch of times, because I would rather just sit and spend time with you guys and sit and talk while we crochet together. Because I know there's a lot of you guys that just, you know, crochet. You're the only one that crochets that you know. Like, nobody else crochets. I totally get that. I rarely ever get to crochet with my baby sister, and she's only been crocheting a short time. So there's not really, I don't have people to sit and crochet with. And I feel like when we do our tutorials this way, it's us spending time together while we're learning together. So, yeah, I think it's nice. We're just continuing the double crochets all the way around, making our solid row. I mean, for obvious reasons, I do have to say meet you at the end of this section a lot, because who the heck wants to sit on here for 12 hours while I make a shawl or a poncho? That would be excessive. But I'm really glad you're here today. I'm glad we're doing this together. I like having projects that we have that are, you know, we can work on together. I just think that's fun. So I am to the corner again. So we're going to do the same thing we did in the last corner. Make sure we get our 3 double crochets here for the shell, and then do 5 double crochets in that chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And remember, make sure we get all 3 of those double crochets. So pull your stitches back if you need to see that first one. Get all 3 of those. And then the 4th one that goes into the chain 1 space. This is what we got so far. See how beautifully more straight those corners are becoming? And the more rows you put in, the straighter this will be, but also it's not going to matter, because once we crochet the two grannies together, it's going to, the stitches will pull themselves a little bit tighter, and then when you wash it, it should be fine. Should not be an issue. But if it bothers you, you can put a couple more rows in and it will be definitely more straighter the further you go. And the reason I'm putting in a double crochet here is because I find it easier to put the single crochet to connect the 2 sides when it's a solid row of stitches as opposed to the granny. And it gives it a little more structure in between. And also, like, the whole point of granny blankets or granny square blankets is, or at least in my mind, when you're making the granny squares, whatever color the border is, it gives it the illusion that the blanket is that color. So for us, our blanket is going to have the illusion that it is this burgundy color, and that these are just, you know, the accent colors, because the main color of my blanket is going to be the burgundy. Even though there's only 2 rows, well, 3 rows, even though there's only 3 rows of that burgundy, that will be the color that is your eye's going to see first, because it's going to look like that's the base of the blanket with patches on it. Just like the blanket that is on the back of Roseanne's couch in, you know, the TV show Roseanne. It looks like it is black with multicolored squares sewn on top of it. So this will look like it's maroon with, you know, that beautiful harvest moon in the center. I remember when I was a little girl, I told you guys I lived in a really rough neighborhood. There was not a lot of nature going around us. We had abandoned buildings, empty lots. We're at the corner, so we're gonna make sure we put those 5 double crochets in the middle, or in the chain 2 space. I remember coming home in October one night, and the moon was just rising over. I lived on a dead-end street, so at the end of our street was a schoolyard. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it was blocked off by a fence. So the dead end went down to a chain link fence, and on the other side of it was actually an abandoned school. And so the grass was always like way overgrown because there was nobody there to cut the grass. And the moon was rising up over the fence line. And it was a harvest moon, and I had never seen anything so beautiful in my entire life. And I asked my mom, I was like, why is the moon so big? And it was probably this color. It was just beautiful, and I could still see exactly what it looked like in my head all these years later. And that was probably 35 years ago. But it was so beautiful. And my mom was like, it's a harvest moon. I was like, why is it called a harvest moon? And she tried to give me some explanation that it didn't interest me as a little kid. But now I am lucky enough that I live where I live. We have lots of stars. There's no, I mean, the ambient light, the city light is far enough away that I can see the Milky Way most nights. Not the Milky Way, the Big Dipper. I see the Big Dipper most nights from my backyard. I can see the moon rise almost every night. Very beautiful. We are almost done with this row, and then I will show you how I am going to connect these with a single crochet. I'm at my corner, so I'm going to do the 5 double crochet. Make sure we get those 3 double crochet. 2, 3 of the shell. And I don't have one in the chain space, so I'm going to put a double crochet in the chain space. I'm going to slip stitch to join, and I'm going to cut because I need to work out of the corner next. This is our Harvest Moon Granny Square. Let's see if I can pull you up a little more so you get a better view. This is what we have so far, and like I said, this unevenness will work itself out. Not worried about that at all, especially when you start crocheting the squares together, or if you choose to block it. So that is what we have. There we have it. All right, so we have 2. Actually, I have more than 2, but we're just going to take 2. Well, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see which side looks the best to me. So this side's prettier, this side's prettier. I'm going to put the pretty sides, actually no, I'm going to put the less pretty sides together because I want the single crochet facing the top of the blanket. You just have to make sure if you're going to do it this way that all your single crochet rows are facing the same direction. And this is something I really struggled with Mr. Cinnamon's blanket, is I kept putting the single crochet on the wrong side of the blanket and I would have to frog it, and it was a whole thing. So just make sure your single crochets are always on the same side of the blanket. So I'm going to create a slip knot. Okay. We're going to get our corners together. We are going to pull apart this corner. So we're going to need to be in closer so you guys can see what I'm talking about. We're going to pull apart the corner. There should be 5. There's our 5 double crochets. Okay. We're going to go to the 3rd one, the very peak of that shell, and we're going to put our hook to hold it. Then we're going to go back to the 2nd one and do the 2nd granny square. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to isolate those 5 stitches for the corner. Make sure you're in the right ones because I just wasn't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my 5. I'm going to go to the 1, 2, the 3rd one right there. I'm going to put our hook in and we're going to slip stitch this. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to single crochet it to connect. So you're going to pull up through those 2, both of the blocks, and we're going to do a single crochet. We're going to make sure that our square is lined up, and we're going to go in both. So there should be 4 loops on our thing because we're going to go through the top of the stitches. See, if you fold it and you're looking at this is the edge, you're going to go through all 4 of those loops, okay? You're going to single crochet through them. And this is how we're going to connect the blanket. And just keep going across and finding the coordinating. And I'm crocheting over that little tail because I don't want to look at it or weave it in later. You're just going to keep going across and make sure you're lining up your stitches and single crochet the two squares together. Try to get past where this tail is so that you can see what I'm doing, because I can't even see what I'm doing. Okay, so get past there. So we take our two edges, we set them side by side. This is the top of the stitch. They should look like V's. Okay, so these V's are going this way, these V's are going that way. You want to go through both V's so that you have four loops on your yarn, and pull through and do a single crochet all the way across. Just make sure you're not skipping stitches. Just be very mindful that you're getting the stitches lined up all the way across. All the way. See, that's what that looks like. And when we open this up, there's going to be a ridge there. Those single crochets are going to stand up and stand out away from the blanket. And at this point, if you notice that you have an uneven amount of stitches, if there's like one or two that just doesn't have a match for it, you can just fudge it. It's not going to make a huge difference. I like connecting it with single crochets because I feel like it gives it a little more sturdiness, a little more, like it's going to last a lot longer when you do single crochets. Because if you sew this in, depending on how you sew these together, you can absolutely make like an imaginary join to where it's invisible. You can't see it. You sewed it flat and it's completely lace flat. And that's actually not difficult to do at all. It's not. But if your thread gets snapped, it's going to just unravel down. Whereas this is a little bit easier to save if that happens. I made a bath mat years ago. It's like 4 or 5 years ago now. It was one of the first things I ever made. And I connected it like this. And so it had these beautiful ridges on it. And it has held up to the test of time. And I have put some wear and tear on that bath mat. Just still single crocheting all the way across to connect this. I don't mind sewing stuff by hand, but like if I could crochet it, it's like always way faster. And I would just rather crochet. And we are almost to the end of the row. Just make sure you get those center stitches. Don't end the row until you're in the center stitches of this shell so that you have your corner. I'm going to cut and tie this off. And look at all the progress we made already. We have, look at that, 2 pieces sewn together. I'm going to open it up. See how much flatter this edge looks now? It's not pulling so much in the middle. And that's what's going to happen when you do this single crochet edge. And it does have a ridge, but I think the ridge is beautiful and I think it adds detail. And I'm excited about this. I'm really excited about this project. And I have another one here that I can attach. Well, I have to still put the double crochet border. This is the first one I made where I was still testing it out, but it definitely needs that border, that thick border. I think this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful blanket, and I really hope that you do make one of these with me if you have the time and the resources, obviously. But even if you only make one granny square with me to learn this technique, I want to see your granny square. Be proud of your granny square. Show me what you're working with. Show me what you're doing. And I will show you guys this as it progresses along, because as of the recording of this tutorial, I obviously am not finished with the blanket. It's going to take a while. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial. Thank you for working along with me if you decide to make this beautiful blanket. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.